Welcome to Listen Up. Today, Cornelius is joining us, and let's get started. Hi, welcome to the show.
Hello.
Just as a quick intro, as a lot of guests on these episodes, we actually met online. In our case, Twitter, where I basically shared a clip of John Bellion describing Payola in 2024 and how he felt it on his side, and then you commented, and we started discussing, and we got in touch. Would you like to start by just like sharing your background, who you are, what you're doing right now?
Okay, well, my name is Cornelius Harris, and I am based out of Detroit. And Detroit is known for the home of techno music. And I work with Exhibit 3000, which is the world's only techno music museum. But I'm also the label manager for Underground Resistance, which is one of the old school labels of techno. I've been doing it for several years now, and been working a lot with a lot of up and coming artists as well. And so I'm predominantly known for my work in electronic music, but I've also worked in some other styles of music as well. So uh, that's a summary of me.
That's nice. So, you're the label owner and manager?
I am the label manager. The label is actually owned by a guy by the name of Mike Banks, and he's the guy who started the label.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Historically, have you also touched a bit of publishing,
Yep.
or
We
mainly
have
on the recording side?
actually, in terms of management, I deal with the artist, but then I also deal with the label, but I also deal with publishing. I kind of work in a few different areas. In this, a lot of times when you're doing independent work, you don't have just one job, you have several. And so, like a lot of other people, I've got several job titles. I've done several different things, from dealing with publishing to dealing with contract negotiations to dealing with licensing, dealing with technical issues, political issues, actually, sometimes even, given some of the relationships between the US and other countries in terms of touring and needing to take care of the different requirements to travel to different countries. That becomes a big part of it as well.
Wow. Yeah. Jack of all trades, all the way. Okay. Um, I guess like just before I jump into the topic that I can't wait to discuss with you, just how did you got into music? Most of the time, it's fascinating.
Yeah. No, I got into music. Uh, Gosh, it's a long story because I had been interested in music from being a kid. I played bassoon actually. Later on, moved over to play bassoon. Also played trombone. Uh, Eventually got a keyboard. You know, I had grown up. My mother had a baby grand piano, and so I was used to the piano and keyboard. And at some point, I started putting together music myself and working with some other people. Uh, During that time, I did a lot of bouncing around between different cities, and I was okay. I did okay, but I started thinking a lot about Detroit, and it was interesting in that the longer I was away from Detroit, the more I would go to these other places, the more I appreciated a lot of things about Detroit that I hadn't before. So I made a decision to return to Detroit, to set up shop there, and a few folks and I got together. We put together a zine, and that led to eventually me doing promotional work for Submerge. Submerge is a distributor for electronic music, so I was doing a lot of bios and press releases and things like that. And then eventually I transitioned from doing that to becoming the label manager for Underground Resistance. And it's been a great experience moving forward from there.
There you go. Been in the trenches, empirical knowledge, can't beat that. So, okay, great. So now we have the background. So let's jump in the first topic, right? The video that I shared about basically John Billion explaining what Payola feels like, at least for him, in 2024. Could you give me your take on it? Do you agree, disagree? It feels like, if I understood properly, you were saying that basically Payola is felt differently according to the genres, right? But then I'll let you elaborate.
So actually, let me add a little bit more of my history, which probably isn't very important. Is that I also worked in a record shop, one of the largest record shops in the Midwest at the time, School Kids Records. And through that, and through working with my manager there by the name of Michael Lang, I learned quite a bit through him, and then talking to some of the label representatives who would come through about how the mainstream industry works, and also how the independent scene works in terms of the retail side of it. And all of that became really important as I got deeper into it on my own journey. In that, going back to that video, yeah, Payola has been going on for a long time. It's been going on since the very beginning. And I think a lot of times, when we look at, people being paid to do things, I mean, that's something that's been going on for forever. You hear about it in sports, you hear about it in gambling, you hear about it in all these different places where people pay to get certain things. There's a big college scandal where people with money, of course, are able to just pay to get their kids into certain schools. So this whole idea,
I heard about that.
yes. So the whole idea that money creates more money by whatever means, that's old, and that's not unique to music. The thing that I think is great about looking at independent genres and artists is that you can have success through paying people off and things like that, but you can also have success through the actual fans and actual listeners and the people who actually come out to see you. And I think that ends up being, it's considered underground in the sense that a lot of times you don't have the same types of highs that, let's say, a mainstream artist would have. Uh, but at the same time, your career tends to be a lot more steady. And so you don't have a lot of highs. You do have some lows, but the thing is, they're not as extreme as they are if you're on that mainstream level. And what that does a lot of times is it gives people an opportunity to have much longer careers. So when you look at genres like techno, when you look at hip hop, underground hip hop, when you look at punk, a lot of these operate on a level that's primarily dictated by fans, not by Payola. The other nice thing about what we do is that because our music is designed for the clubs, we deal with DJs directly. We, and the fans, we get to bypass radio a lot of times. So it gives us an edge in that the whole conversation around having to pay for your music to be on the radio, it's not really a factor for us. We can sidestep a lot of that.
Oh, okay. So you mean that, to try to put an image on it, like I don't need to be able to have a sing-along song to put it in my pub or whatever, which is, I guess, correlated to mainstream, if I understand what you're saying, versus if I go to a techno club, it's less important the fact that I would have already heard that song before, or I would have heard it through different channels.
Through different channels, and I think that the
What are
thing
these channels?
you have to keep in mind, there's a group of people who regularly go out on the weekend. They go out on the weekend, they go to the club, maybe just to have fun, but also maybe because work has been exhausting and they're looking for a break. They're looking to release some energy, or maybe they're looking for somebody. So what happens is there's a lot of people who have made their way through the clubs, and the clubs and the DJs in those clubs, it's a whole ecosystem that exists independently of radio. And that particular conversation about Payola was directly related to radio, and people needing to
Fair.
pay to get played on the radio. That's something that we don't really deal with because we're not as concerned about radio. Now, that being said, there's a lot of club DJs who also play on the radio. And so when we get radio play, it's usually thanks to those particular DJs and those people, or, those radio stations that are more independent, that don't worry about things like Payola. There's thousands of small independent record stations, or sorry, radio stations that do this. So we're not as concerned about the mainstream stations. We're not so concerned about uh, dealing with those DJs and things like that. We're focused on, no, who is trying to get somebody on the floor and dance, because those are our customers, and those people who come out and hear that music and have these really great associations with that music. Those are our fans. Those are the people who love what we do. And so, again, we're not really looking at radio as being the deciding piece of what happens with us.
Totally fair. So I guess this clip, indeed, he mentioned radio, right? One of the points I'm trying to put across is that there is a new form of payola. So this is like more like the body of content that I've been sharing, a lot of people are speaking out about, which is that the new payola is basically the access to a playlist. Do you have, in order, first of all, what would be the best music platform for techno at the minute, you would say? Is it Spotify, or is it SoundCloud, Tidal?
I would say that I think that Spotify tends to be a great resource in terms of discovery. There's a lot of people who learn about new music through Spotify. Spotify also is notorious for not paying anybody. So, I would never look at
We're gonna get to it
Spotify.
in a minute.
Yeah, they're not ever going to be anything that's going to be fair, from what I can see, to artists on that side of it. But so I think that's a good way for discovery. But really, a lot of what we do is really word of mouth. When you have something that's good and that people enjoy it and they like to hear it, they start talking about it. And what happens is, when you focus on quality, and especially when you're thinking about those people who come out to hear this stuff, it makes a difference. Again, I can say the same thing about certain types of rock music, where it might not be hugely popular in the mainstream sense of it, but these bands keep contact with their fans. They have this relationship with their fans, so that it's not about how much radio airplay they get. It's really about them making sure that their fans are a part of their journey, and the fans can be part of that, can participate in that in some kind of way. So,
Fully aligned.
you build relationships with people, and I think those relationships become the most important thing.
So if the discovery happens on this music platform, right? Platforms.
One of the ways, yeah.
As a fan, one of the ways, so you have the word of mouth, but someone needs to hear it first, right? So let's imagine that you have a subset of fans that most of the time are the most vocal, right? Like super fans, and they have their own ways to find the music. Arguably, in 2024, that will be a playlist somewhere, right? Normally on a DSP. The new form of payola that has been described a lot is the access to these playlists, right? Where you could pitch, but just to a certain set of people. And if you sign with certain entities, you have better chances to be there. What's your thought about it? What have you observed yourself? And what do you think works now? And what do you think could be better?
There is a group of people. There are a group of people that function on that. They look at different websites listing of top tracks and things like that. Uh, they have surveys to decide who are the top DJs, and there's certain clubs that follow those lists and only book from those lists. Now, again, if that's how you want to run your business, that's how you run your business. But what is great is that there are a lot of other people who are focused on quality. They're focused on quality and track record. And again, we emphasize quality. We push this idea that you keep working at something, and the more you work at it, the better you get. So you can go out and you can buy followers, you can pay for certain things, but what happens when you run out of money? All of a sudden all the followers disappear. So if you have real followers and people who really do enjoy what you do, it's not based on how much money you have to pay somebody. They're coming because they actually
aligned.
Yeah. So yeah, maybe I'm misunderstanding.
I'm trying to get to is
yeah.
Oh, sorry. We have a small delay again. I don't know why. Anyhow, it's good. So I guess what I'm trying to get to is you focus on quality, right? So imagine your label focuses on quality, and then 10 other labels or DIY artists, by the way, focus on quality too. And it's at the beginning, it's at least very subjective, right? For an artist that is not out there. How does it work right now? Like, where is the source of input songs that the playlist curators or the people making this list that you described, like, where do they go to find these input sources? Because you have, for example, you can find everywhere on these DSPs, you find music that is really impressive, like, and you would be like, it has no plays compared to the quality that I think that is. And even if, again, qualities or level of creativity is very subjective as a fan, right? But then it's a bit weird that you'd be like, why I never heard about that? So then the next debate would be like, we cannot question, I don't know, everything that is algorithmic or a curator, but I guess at the very entry point, there is the input. And so how does it work around Detroit, for example? You have a new artist that come and talk to you, and they're just like, I've been putting the best music out there for the last 2 years, I believe. You would listen to the music, you'll be like, yep, I agree. This is really good, kid. How would you assess the failure to reach an audience from this artist, for example?
I mean, the problem with that is that there are thousands of reasons why things work or don't work. And one of the things that I try to make clear from the very beginning is that across the board, and again, this is not just in music, there's no guarantee of anything. And I always say that if you go into it, you don't go into it expecting a guarantee. So that's the first piece of it. And I think that's important because, we talk about this in any kind of business. If you decide to open a restaurant, there's no guarantee that your restaurant is going to be successful, even if you have the best food. We understand that that's something. And a lot of times when it comes to music, people don't accept that. And they're like, no, somebody's doing something against me or whatever. And a lot of times that's not the case. It's just, this is the issue sometimes with circumstance. And there's a lot of different things that play into it. What I always say is, how do we put the odds more in your favor? How do we create a situation where even if it doesn't work, we've done everything we possibly can to make it work? And sometimes there are people who are very good at making music, but not very good at selling it. Just because you're a great musician doesn't mean
Fair.
You can promote your stuff. Sometimes people need to hire a publicist because a publicist can help with that. That becomes important sometimes. There's money that needs to be spent on the side of promotion. You send your music out to different people, different services that maybe review your stuff. With electronic music, a lot of people send their stuff to Resident Advisor. That's a very popular site for dance music. Uh,
Yeah.
there are all of these different, things that you can do, and sometimes what will happen is an artist just would not have done those things. They're so busy doing 100 other things that things get missed. Um, and I say that this is one of the reasons why sometimes it becomes important to have a manager or an assistant or a consultant or somebody working with you to help you catch those things that you might be missing. So, I would say that, yeah, see, here's the thing again, there's a saying that anything you get quick can go quick. Easy come, easy go. And so there are all kinds of things you can do to mess with the algorithm and force your stuff to become popular in that way. But what I always say is that the route tends to be better to try to build your audience more organically in a way that's going to sustain you. And again, you've got great music, that's fantastic, but what are you doing to let other people know? And I know people who've got great music that doesn't leave their computer, and they wonder why they're not having, success. And it's like, well, it's there. Or, they put their music up on a platform, SoundCloud, Spotify, whatever, and they get upset because no one's listening. And it's like, well, what did you do to promote it? How did you let people know it was on there? What have you been doing to build your audience? What have you been doing to connect with people? Have you talked to your,
That's fair.
and even on the local level, I know people who will not speak to local DJs. Now you ask them, hey, have you talked to these DJs? Have you communicated with them? Oh no, I didn't think about that. Well, yeah, there's a lot of people out there who might love your stuff, but if they don't know it's there, how can they support you?
I guess one of the example that I would have to not spend too much time on playlists, right? It's like the way socials work, for example, right? The algorithm could/should be improved, but at the moment it's a for you algorithm, right? So even if I follow 10 people on my timeline, I'm actually going to see a lot of other content, blog posts, whatever post, social posts, from people I never ever met before, never even followed before. And the algorithm is going to test me, right? It's going to poke me to be like, how long do you stay on that piece of content? I know it's offensive, music and content, but like in a socials world, right?
Yeah.
A social network. Now, I don't see how this, for example, could not be done with music, because it is done at a certain level. You have the famous algorithmic playlists, right?
Yeah.
And so Russ, for example, was talking about this not long ago, where he was just like, you cannot be on Discover Weekly before 2 million streams, right? But you cannot reach 2 million streams if you are not in the top 40 local of at least, I don't know, the US, the UK, something like this, right?
But
and to be in these ones, this is where you have a human curation level.
Yeah.
And so I think that a bit of the frustration, at least I heard, because I've never released music myself, but I've been following it, and a lot of artists like showed me their stats. I think a lot of time you could see like some songs really work really great, like on the ground, right? In concerts, people love it, or you'd go in a club, like for every genre, right? And online, digitally, it would not be correlated.
Yeah.
And I think for me, that's a failure from the system, from the algorithm that is applied in music, to basically be as democratic as possible, because that's why I think there is this concept of payola that still stays in the air, because just like, I know personally bands in London that literally are in front of 2,000 people a week, right? Playing with so far sounds and so on, up to 2,000, right? So very popular, great music, people love them. And they always constantly, for the last 8 years at least, they had like 2,000, 3,000 followers. I really can't believe that their songs have not bubbled up in this kind of playlist. And when you ask them, actually, they're a bit like what you said, right? They never paid that much attention to streaming. This is going to be a segue to royalty model. To streaming, because for them, streaming recorded music makes no money. So let's focus on live. Recorded music is just our portfolio, right? So we put it on Spotify just to say, hey, we're a real band, we have real music. Listen to it once, but then come to see us live. That's the most important. And this is where, in my opinion, the business model that a DSP is built on, which is the royalty model, heavily influence discovery, because it's at some point your lot of correlation becomes a bit weird, which is why I like, why did that song never bubbled up? I don't even know if it's an expression,
Yeah,
but
no,
you know what I mean? I think
what,
that's why people still have this payola concept. Yes, I could sell myself more. Yes, I could do more marketing. Totally fair. But why was not the song tested the same way a social post would be tested?
well, the thing is, though, they're different mediums. I mean, the same way you have, let's say, a movie that comes out and it doesn't do well, but then when it comes out on streaming, it becomes hugely popular. You know, maybe the audience is in a different place. Maybe it becomes, people talk about cult classic movies, you know, movies that, again, didn't really do that well, but over time have had an audience that grew, and their audience gets bigger over the years. So, you know, the path is different. The path is going to be different, and I think that if you're, some people want to focus on algorithms. That's what they're looking to do. They want to be part of that algorithm. They want to be popular through that algorithm. If that's what you want, then there are things you can do to get that. There are other people who are like, well, no, actually, I'm concerned with engaging with my fans, and having 500 real fans is better than having 5,000 fake ones. And the fake fans aren't going to buy my stuff, but these 500 real ones will. So I actually, if we're talking about economics, I'm going to make more money with these 500 real fans than I would with the 5,000 fake ones. Now, the 5,000 fake ones,
100%.
it looks better. It looks better for people who are only looking at that and are focused on those things. But I think it's really important for people to be able to look beyond the surface. If you're only looking on the surface, things look a certain way. If you actually dig deeper, you'll see a lot more. There are thousands of artists who appear to be famous, who are broke, who are homeless, who cannot function independently. At the same time, there are artists who you barely know, who are extremely successful, who are able to pay their bills plus others, and you would not know their names, you wouldn't know what they look like. So, you can't use an appearance to make judgments. And I think what happens is, because of social media and because of things like, Instagram and X and things like that, people can come off with the impression that people are more successful than what they are. You can create an image that you want to portray. You decide what you show and what you don't show. So people put a lot of work into cultivating an image. They're focused.
Fake it till you make it.
Yeah. And sometimes people spend more effort on the image than they do on the music. And that, I say, is a problem, because the reason you're here in the first place is because of the music. So if you've got great photos and you've got, you're high on the algorithm and you've got some nice clothes on and all these things, that's great. But if nobody's getting your music and no one actually likes what you do, or your production isn't as good as you think, because that's another thing too. There have been times when there's been artists that I like, but I listen and I'm like, this is really great, but the production isn't really what it needs to be. Sometimes it's sometimes, and here's the crazy thing, sometimes it's too clean. They spend too much money
Mm.
trying to make the perfect record, and all the soul is stripped out of it. The rawness that gave it that energy and gave it life isn't there. So, you can be a victim, of your own success sometimes too. So,
Aligned.
all of these things are big factors in it. And the thing is, it's
I,
important for a person to take time to know themselves and to know what they're doing and to know their fans, so that they can answer those questions and they can say, okay, it doesn't matter what anybody else is saying. These people enjoy what I do. These people are following me. They're buying my music and my merchandise. I'm actually good with these people, and my goal is to bring more people into what I do. But I'm not going to worry about what somebody else is doing, and that's the number one rule. I'd say not just in music but in life. You have to look at yourself and see how much better are you doing now versus a year before. You can't worry about what somebody else is doing, because there's a lot of reasons why that other person is in their position. And so you have to focus on your job and your career and what you're doing. And I think that's the number one thing.
I'm full, like 100%, like totally aligned with you. I to close up on the playlist stuff, I would add a bit more transparency to it. But I agree with you. Like, you cannot just play with the algorithm cannot rule your life. It totally makes sense. To transition to where the money is being made, because you were talking a lot about fan engagement, which I really love, because that's like the crux of what I'm also trying to do with Listen. Um, Royalty model wise, for streaming royalties, are you familiar with the pro rata model and the user centric model? Okay. And so that's one of the things that I think artists should talk about way more, like to understand why people say that there is no money in streaming, despite the fact that literally billions are being generated a year. And it's not because that money just disappears, it's because it's being captured by a very smart group of people that have been at the helm of that for some time. And that's one of the things that I think we should speak about way more, because that influences discovery that we just talked about. Because of course, it's in, if I'm a DSP and if I have a better deal with label A versus label B, then it makes perfect sense that I bring label A songs in front of the audience that I acquired. That's the first thing. But the other one is also to say, why would you not enable artists to engage more with their audience and to own that relationship way more? Again, at the business model level, if you have a pro rata business, it makes no sense at all, because you're already milking that relationship, because without that relationship, the artist cannot be heard. So you basically control the exchange of value, right? I think that what you're describing about fan engagement, we are totally aligned. I think that the future should rely on leaving more, let me rephrase that, on empowering artists way more to manage this exchange with their fans, and then be able to open up their world to their audience. What I mean by that is that music can be a way to be discovered, right? Oh, I love that track. I love this album. I love the artwork, whatever. There will be a certain amount of money being made there. But if people truly love you, and I really love the concept of 1,000 true fans, right? If you have 1,000 people that truly love you, then these people might be inclined to, for example, buy some songs, right? I don't know. You have an album with 10 songs and you have one extra track that is the deluxe track, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you will pay 50 cents for this, for example, right? But a lot of people do this already on Bandcamp. The point is that now you need to go to another service to do this. It's extremely cumbersome. The other point will be concert tickets. At the moment, a lot of bands in London tell me that through the years, the partners with these DSPs changed. It used to be Ticketmasters. Now it's bands in town, and next year it's going to be Event Team, whatever, right? Or Access. What about you actually integrate horizontally and let the artist pick whatever they want, but everything could happen under the same roof, right? The same app, the same experience for users, because like this you can reduce friction for the artist to actually convert a fan to try something else that they have to offer. The other one, of course, there's merch, but the other one will be services. And I don't know how the techno world is organized around this, for example, but we have a lot of artists, like all around the world, right, that have very peculiar set of services, for the lack of a better term, right, that they offer to their fans that make them go crazy, right? From a dance challenge every Monday, to a cameo, to a meet and greet, to I put the name of your partner in my next song so you can come to sing with me in the studio. All these things are things that people would be really happy to pay $10 or even more for, right? And I think that the future would be to try to increase that fan engagement by reducing acquisition friction. Basically, don't ask me as a fan to download 5 different apps, to create 5 different accounts, to put my credit card everywhere. Make me access your world easily. Does that make sense to you? And do you think that that would work in the techno world, for example?
I'm trying to make sure I'm understanding. So you're saying basically taking all these different services and putting them under one umbrella. Your
Yep.
sales, your music sales, your merchandising, whatever else. Basically creating a website to take the place of all these other websites. Is that correct? Am I correct in that?
To offer that opportunity as a tool to simplify all these operations for the artist. Right now, what you can do is that you can create your own Shopify store or Shopify website, whatever, and you put your SoundCloud player and your merch and your services and your tour dates, right? The issue though is that this is not where you have been discovered. You are streaming one as a mean of discovery and consumption for music, right? People want to have it. It's the cloud. We have the internet now, right? So the point that it's very practical to have one central place where you can actually stream and discover music. Now, why would you need to have another one to actually convert your fans to whatever else you have to offer? I think it would be interesting to have that in the same app, which is what we're building, by the way. But what do you think about this?
I think that I'm going to say I think that on the one side, you're asking a lot. And I think on the other side of it, you may be making something more difficult than it needs to be. And I'm going to explain why. You are looking at one of the things about the internet, or the promise of the internet, is that there's more choice. There are more options, there's more ability to do different things. What we've seen in practice is the opposite. Is that you've got Amazon taking over everything, you've got Google dominating everything, you've got Spotify dominating. You've got certain forces that come in and dominate. There's an argument that could be made that it's convenient for people. This is part of, I think, what you're presenting, is that it can be convenient if there are fewer choices and if everything is under one umbrella. But I'm also going to say that I think the reason why these different platforms end up doing what they do is because it's a lot to be everything to everybody. And at a certain point in terms of business, I think it's important to focus. I look at it in the same way that when there's an artist that says, well, I love all these different kinds of music and I want to do all this music and show how broad I can be. And I'm like, well, that's great that you can do a lot of different things, but how are people going to know you? What is it that you want people to take away from you? If all I can get from you as an artist is that you're everything, well, that's wonderful for you, but that doesn't help me. Yeah. And the thing is, once you establish yourself in something, then there's room to do more with that. Uh, the analogy I always give to people here in the States, U.S. analogy, is that if you want to go to Los Angeles and you want to go to New York, let's say you're in Detroit, you can go to both. It's very possible, but you can't go to both at the same time. You have to go to one and then you go to the other. If you say, well, no, I want to go to both right now, you're not going to be able to. And it's not a question about your abilities or anything like that. It's just that, look, as a single person, there's only so much you can do. So, yes, you can go to both places, but you're going to have to pick a direction. And you're going to need to be clear in what direction you're moving in. Because if you say, I want to go partly to New York, and then partly to LA, and then partly to New York, and partly to LA, you're going back and forth, you're never actually getting anywhere. So it becomes important a lot of
In the
times.
physical world.
In the physical world. And I'm saying that the virtual world is a mirror of the physical world. I think that
Yeah.
we have to focus. If I'm let me think of a big brand. Well, you mentioned at one point McDonald's. Just to throw that out there.
Yeah.
Let's look at McDonald's. Okay, I go to McDonald's.
Used to work there.
Okay,
Yep.
I go to McDonald's because I want a Big Mac, and that's the reason why I go. If they say, okay, well, in addition to that, we're going to be serving sushi, I'm going to say, I don't know if I trust eating sushi at McDonald's. That's not it. If you want to open up a sushi restaurant, that's fantastic, but I'm not gonna get it. I'm not gonna, and it's because look, you do something, you do it well for the people who like that, so you build on that. You don't say I'm diverse just to be diverse. That doesn't help.
No, fair. Don't you think though that it's for example, to take like a basic example, right? Like to have concert tickets, right, in the app. Do you think that makes sense that I cannot go on one app and listen to music and at the same time have my concert tickets in the app?
But my question would be, isn't that something that Bandcamp and Spotify already do?
No.
No,
You need to go on another website.
Oh, you're saying that it brings you into a different website.
Out.
Yes.
Yeah. What I'm saying is that you spread, right? That's called customer acquisition friction, right? And this basically, when you force people to go to another platform, you basically lose normally 90% people because you're going to land on a new ecosystem. You don't even know where you are. Maybe you don't even have an account on that platform. And so this basically brings in friction. And my whole point is, I agree with you though that doing everything doesn't make sense. This is totally fine, and the user experience needs to stay neat and clean. To make it a bit more accurate, the description I'm trying to make here is that I think that fandom in music should be easier.
My question would be, what is that a complaint that you're hearing from fans? Because I haven't heard that particular complaint, and I think you have okay. You hear that a lot. Okay, that's still and that's good. I think that that's something that I haven't heard, and honestly, and so I think that if that's something that's in your research has been coming up as an issue, then I'd say absolutely, that's something to look into. From what I've seen and heard from people, let's say Ticketmaster or whoever, I'm on your artist page and I have to go through Ticketmaster to get it. A lot of people already have accounts with Ticketmaster, so they don't have to do anything different, or they don't mind putting their information in there into a trusted site. And I think that that's it. The same way if you're going to the mall, if you're going to a mall, or even if it's a street mall, you're going to different shops. You're using your card in every shop. You can't go and collect everything from all the stores and make one payment, you kind of understand that, I have to pay for the stuff in this store before I go into the next store. Even if it's under the same mall, I still
Fair.
need to do
Different consumption mode though.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
For example, Amazon is kind of like a big bazaar,
yeah,
right? And that has been proven to be more successful than brick and mortar malls, for example. So that's why, in my opinion, I agree with you in the sense that it's not a silver bullet. This 100% aligned. I'm just saying that in the consumption usage that we're seeing right now in 2024 and how it's evolving, I feel that that should be an option. For example, you could imagine that you go on. Actually, it's really cool because I'm brainstorming at the same time our roadmap, right? But you could have a light version of the app, right, where you can just have a very basic streaming experience, and I don't know, you can have your tickets there. But if you're like a super fan, and you actually every time you discover an artist, you're like, oh, what else do they offer, right? We have artists that I know that literally make 300 to 500 quid a month by selling remixes of their own music because someone wants a specific vibe, the name of their friend in it is for a birthday, for anything else, right? And it's very cheap for a consumer. It's like for a tenner, I can have a bespoke song for the birthday of my lover, for example. What an amazing gift, right? And for an artist, you multiply it by your fan. I feel like this experience for these people, for super fans, is really missing at the moment. I feel like having these 4 apps just to do something close to that, like, I don't know, Spotify, Patreon, Ticketmaster, eventually Bandcamp, right? I agree that for most people and most listeners might end up being okay. But I feel like this is something that would drive so much more revenue for artists and would basically help them to develop their fan base, which then enable them to, as you said, reduce the sine wave, right? And to actually build something sustainable.
So with the fan, or not with the fan, but with the artist, if I am bringing all of what I do under one umbrella, would it not make sense for me to push for, I don't know, Spotify to do that, or for Bandcamp to do that? What I'm saying is it might.
They have been trying to.
Yeah. And so
it's just that the business model is not this. It would be too boring. But basically, their economics are not aligned with this, in my opinion. It can be totally wrong. And this is something that you can imagine in the concept of like a Fediverse, right? You don't need to have it just on, to take the example now, just on Lissen, for example. You could still have your website on the side and you just connect it. So if you manage to drive enough traffic to your website, and I don't know, you give a 50 cent reduction when you buy on something else than the music platform that people discover you in, right? With music, totally fine. For me, it's more to facilitate a fan's entry in an artist world. For me, this is where we need to kill the friction, because internet is internetwork, right? And I think that at the moment, because everything was built in silo, right? You talked about Amazon, Google, and so on. You actually build yourself by being a network, but you are actually a closed ecosystem. And so if someone wants to go somewhere else, then you have to recreate another identity and its new rules and so on and so on. I feel like the future is actually to interconnect what you want to do on your own, but to connect it to a centralized platform if you want to, and if that helps you reach a new audience.
And this is maybe more for Max, but you've got things like Keychain, which holds your passwords and things like that. And there's similar things that hold your credit card information. Wouldn't those already satisfy that piece of it?
Yeah, and there are a lot of experimentations on blockchain also. It's not mature enough, right? but this is definitely where I think that this is going.
Yeah.
You could see, for example, what's going on with Threads, Mastodon, Blue Sky, and so on. They are building like the Fediverse. The whole concept is when I post, hey, I had a great chat with Cornelius today on Threads, the best would be that someone on Mastodon or X or any other social platform could actually see that. And then you would be able to determine what is the discovery algorithm that you're using.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think
that empowers you as a user.
Yeah, no, and here's my thing. I think that there's a lot of room for innovation. There's a lot of room for someone to, as they say, disrupt, these models and create new ones. I think that that's one of the great things about this is that there's room for people to create new things. Always. There's something can always be made better, usually. But as they say, you also don't want to reinvent the wheel. The wheel works.
Yeah.
That's why it's been here for a few, millions and millions of years, because that wheel it works. So
it does the job.
Yeah, we don't need to make a new wheel. We don't have to
talking about wheel. Actually, it's a good transition. Like right now with the tools you have, for example, if I may, with your artist, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you have streaming. It pays pennies, and then like pennies, and then you have live, for example, right? And merch and so on. How do you manage their identity online regarding everything that is not recorded music, right? Sell vinyls, merch, concert ticket. Do they have their own websites? Do you drive your fans via the label's website? How, as a fan, I just heard someone is from your label. How do I access that?
Mm-hmm. Well, what happens is there's two different things. One, you've got the label. More than two things. You've got the label, you've got the artist, and you've got the distribution. Now, what happens is you can get behind any of those things. So there's certain labels like Motown, like Def Jam, that people associate with a certain kind of music. So if I'm a Motown fan, I wouldn't need to know specifically who the artist is because I like the sound that label does. And I know in general, if they've got something coming out, I'll probably like it. Def Jam was like that, where, again, this is me working in retail. There were people who would come in just to buy Def Jam, whatever it was. If it wasn't that good, okay, fine, it doesn't sell as much. But people had an expectation that they were going to like what came out of that label.
But they were going to the mall. With you now, where would they go? Where do you expect, like for you, the perfect fan acquisition pipeline?
I don't think there is one.
Like they discover you on a music platform, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say the most efficient for you. So they discover your music on SoundCloud, for example, right? How do you drive them to buying a vinyl, for example? Do you expect them to search for the artist name, go on socials, and then there's a link tree with the merch store?
What it is that now, number one, all the artists I would expect would have links going to Submerge. And again, I mentioned before that Submerge is the distributor. So what happens is there's a mail order. You can go on that site. You can buy whatever it is you want to buy. The records, shirts, wristbands, whatever you want to buy, you can buy from there. And so
but before that,
the artist and or the label redirects to that. So what happens is if the artist has their social media or whatever else, and they say, hey, look, if you want to buy this record, click on this link, and it goes to there. If the label says, hey, you like this music, here's where you get the music, click this link, it goes back there. So what happens is everything redirects, to that main site where you can get that and anything else you might want to listen to.
So as a fan, I will have to. So now I go to one of your artists, for
Mm-hmm.
example. I go to their Spotify account, for example. There is a link that directly will bring to your store, and there will be another link that will bring you to the tickets.
Well, the thing is, and I'll say this too, is that in this world, a lot of the events are put together by promoters. So a lot of times the artist isn't putting together the performances; it's a promoter. So again, we're based in Detroit. We do a show in London. Uh, there's going to be a London promoter getting people out because we're in Detroit. How much can we do in Detroit to get people to come out in London? So there's an actual promoter in London taking care of that. And so they would handle the tickets. You know, they make sure the payment comes to us, but on the business end, they handle that part of it. It's more efficient because now I don't have to spend a lot of time trying to find people in London to promote something for me, where it's like, no, you as a promoter, you as a venue, you know, you're going to take care of that. So that's usually how that works, is if someone wants to go see a show, they go to them. They wouldn't necessarily go to the artist to get tickets for a show.
But don't you think this is a limitation? Because every the examples you give, they are always like in real life. I'm saying like now, for example, most of consumption is driven digitally.
But
So
you're
don't you
saying
think that
even
there is a miss here by this friction?
you're saying even in terms of concerts, you think more concerts are digital than physical?
Anything, to be honest, again, my point is that I call these experiences, right?
Mm-hmm.
Anything else than music, I call these experiences. A cameo, a concert, a vinyl, a New Jersey, whatever. Don't you think that it would be very interesting and that could be a source of growth, of revenue, of audience, and so on, for you as a label or as an artist directly to actually reduce the friction to let the fan get to this on their own?
I think it becomes a question of how much, again, I spoke earlier about an artist sometimes, you know, needing to focus on being an artist and needing to put their energy towards that, which is why they bring other people on board to help, you know, again, a publicist, manager, agent, whoever. So I think that, you know, that may work for some people. And so for those people, I think, you know, absolutely, you know, go for it. But I think there's a lot of other people where that would take away from everything else they have to do. It would be a burden as opposed
Oh,
to,
no, even
but
you as a label. Sorry, I didn't express it properly. You could do it as a label. So the
right, right.
artist stays focused on music,
Mhm.
but like
Well, no,
you set up basically their account.
right. And I'm saying that even as a label, what I'm saying is again, because I'm the label manager for Underground Resistance, and for me to say that UR is going to be the only one doing our shows, and that, you know, nobody else is going to be involved, that would put a lot of weight on our heads. You know, we've got great partners and great people we've worked with all over the world, and I can safely say if we weren't working with those people, we wouldn't have the type of response that we've had up to this point. We we work best sometimes when we work with people who are the best at what they do. So again, if there's something that can do it all, that's fantastic, and there's people who I think would definitely benefit from that. But what I'm saying is, in terms of our model is to focus on the best quality we can find in these different spaces. So we've
I
got
think
folks we
I
work with.
agree.
We got
No, this makes.
Yeah. There's people we work with in Japan. You know, I don't speak the language. I could not organize a performance in Japan the same way that someone in Japan could do that. So it would make no sense for me to take on that weight as a label to say that we're going to be responsible for that when somebody else is better at it.
So I think that I didn't express it properly.
Mhm.
I see it as, for example, in London, right? Like, because we work with a lot of artists, right? And most of the time when you have a promoter organizing a show, right, you have actually three options to get a ticket. The first one is at the door, last minute, classic, right? You arrive there, the venue takes a commission because, like, well, it's because it's our name on the door, right? The other one is via the promoter distribution channels, whatever they are. They can send someone literally in the street to sell the tickets, or they have their own websites and partnership with a ticket reselling platform, whatever. But there is another one, which is a link that they give the artists to sell the ticket themselves, right? So again, the organization is still done by the promoter, but it would be a pity to shut down a potential distribution channel, which is the artist socials, for example, whatever, right? And so to incentivize the artist to also sell tickets, to stay in the very specific example of a concert organized by a promoter, right? The promoters basically say, well, every ticket that you sell yourself, well, we still put up the show, right? But on the fees, instead of taking 80%, we're going to take just 40%. And you're going to make 60, right? Because that's an acquisition channel. And this, to make it as efficient as possible, what I'm saying is that it would make sense that it's directly accessible via the profiles and the channels that you control.
So
it doesn't add up any work on you, like, because it's a link tree, right?
right. So the
Does it make
artist,
sense?
I'm not quite sure I'm understanding. The artist, the label, and the promoter and the venue would all operate under this one umbrella. Is that correct?
Just like right now. Yeah. Imagine you have the venue that it managed by Ticketmaster. You have no other choice than to sell the ticket on Ticketmaster, right? But you can unlock different links, right? This already exists. It has been existing for the last 6 or 7 years, I think. So the whole point, it's like when you can resell a ticket. The whole point here is to say, as an artist, or a label, by the way, when I say artist and label, same, right? I don't want to have to organize the concert because it's in Japan. So far, so good. It makes perfect sense. But on my socials, I know that I have 100,000 fans in Tokyo. If the promoter would be like, okay, I take 80% commission on all the ticket that I will sell for you, that's fair. But the goal of both people is to actually sell out the venue. So they basically say, with that link, you can sell directly yourself to your fan base. So it's not thanks to us, but we organize the concert, so we're still going to take a commission, but it will be a smaller one. There was a great example with this where Kevin Hart explained that how he built that up with Heartbeat Production with actually his partners in the movie industry, where at some point he was just like, wait a minute, the marketing budget, I have a distribution channels. I'm big on socials, so let's be partners. It doesn't make sense. The fact that otherwise you shut down a distribution channels just because you didn't organize the show, but it doesn't matter.
No, I think that's a good example. I appreciate that. I think, again, when you're talking about new concepts, it takes a minute sometimes for people to wrap their heads around it and to understand exactly what's going on with it. It'd be an interesting thing to see and to see it in action.
Oh, I can't wait. Great. Like, I'm going to be, I will show you. I will send you like the demo videos and stuff. You're going to see it like for real soon. By the way, who is your distribution platform?
Submerge. Submerge.com.
Okay. I will let you, I will let you, because we can't be like public about our partners at the minute, but I will let you know afterwards. Awesome. So just like on another topic, real quick, because we talked about a lot of, for me, fan engagement is the most important. Just one stat to drop out there, right? The gaming industry is 4 times bigger than the music industry, right? Music industry is really minuscule compared to other industries in the world in the art and entertainment sector, right? Just 50 billion.
Absolutely.
Gaming is 200 billion, right? Something like close to 70% of these 400 billions, right, come from around 10% of the gamers. That's what they would call their own super fans, right? And I studied a lot their model. I talked to a lot of people who are doing from Twitch to like pro gamers and so on, and to also like editors. game editors. And basically what they tell me is that the experience is seamless for the fan, for the gamer. Whether you're a pro gamer or like a casual fan, because the money comes from you, right? You want to buy a dance on Fortnite, literally, a skin, a new world on Roblox. You want to do, it's just a click away. That's why I talk by customer acquisition friction. Like, I think that we should really take a look at what gaming has been doing, because it makes it very simple for consumers.
That's a great example. That's a fantastic example. I like that one.
That was just like, okay. So, but the transition for this is like, gaming again. Like, what did you think about AI and the discussion that is happening at the minute? I don't know if you followed with Suno and Udio that are being sued by the majors because of training data. Do you have an opinion on what's going on with AI at the minute?
I mean, what I've seen is people using it for fun. And so, people have fun with it. Let people have some fun. I think the thing with technology is that it's difficult to stop technology once it's out. So if someone was to say, hey, you hear about certain countries that might say, hey, we don't want people on the internet. Okay, you can say that, but all you're going to do is make people want to get to it more. The music industry tried that with downloads, with MP3s. When they came out against
very successfully.
Napster. Well, no.
It's a sarcasm.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. Yeah. No. Exactly. It's something where at a certain point they realize we can't stop this, so yeah, we're going to be a part of it. And the only thing that took the place of MP3s was streaming. And here's the other thing too. When we talk about business models, what's interesting about something like Spotify or even Netflix and things like that, you notice that now most of them are talking about advertising. They're trying to raise the rates and say if you get the basic, you have to have ads. That's because advertising is actually what brings in more money. Now, advertising is the thing that funds a lot of these things. And these platforms, and it could be because of the amount of money that the executives are taking. I don't know exactly how that breaks down. But a lot of these models really aren't very profitable. They're high profile. Again, going back to what I was saying as far as the appearance versus the reality. They appear to be big and they appear to be, wealthy. They appear to be profitable businesses. But the truth is a lot of them aren't. A lot of them lose a great deal of money. And so, you find yourself in the situation where, now you're losing all this money, but you don't want to shut down because you figure somebody else is going to step in. If you do, you've built the audience now for something. So, you don't want to let that go. But the reality is your model was never profitable to begin with. It's what we call here in the States a Ponzi scheme, a pyramid scheme, And so, it's, I don't know how long any of this stuff is going to last. I think that's a big question. So when we talk about...
Are you familiar with Ted Gioia?
Ted Gioia.
He writes a newsletter called The Honest Broker.
You know what? Actually, it's funny. Someone just told me about him and told me I should check him out. I haven't yet, but
I highly recommend it. And I'm like a fanboy. He knows. I even emailed him, and he talks about this. Like it's been a long time that he has been predicting the fact that these business models that heavily rely on advertising are intrinsically not sustainable, because at some point someone is going to find a way to cut your cost and just to duplicate what you've done, because there's no real value at the core of it, and a lot of other factors obviously. And he correlates that to other entertainment industry like movies, for example, right? And you could see how the Disney stock is taking a big hit and so on. So I agree with you. That's why for me, for example, when discovery mode was rolled out, I was appalled, but on the other hand, highly anticipable.
Yeah.
because otherwise you don't generate enough money.
And I'll say that for the artists who are being discovered is great. And so, again, I can say there are dozens of artists that I wouldn't know exist if it wasn't for Spotify. So the discovery piece of it, I think, is fantastic. I don't think it's sustainable.
I was talking about discovery mode.
Oh, discovery
literally
mode.
like the proper payola on Spotify, where they say like, if we take 30% of your revenue, we boost you on our playlist.
Got you. Yeah, got you.
That basically forced everyone to actually be in that game. So most of the people I would know, no one will be public about it, but you have no choice.
But here's the thing. I mean, I think that here's the thing with Spotify, you're not going to make any money to begin with. So the number of streams you get on that side is meaningless. You could give 5 streams, you could get 5,000 streams. That doesn't make a difference. So it's a game, I think, when you get people to spend money on something and they're not going to get any particular benefit from it. In terms of hustle, it's like, anything you can get somebody to pay for, you've won. But in terms
you
of
force them.
Well, here's the thing. You get them to believe that they're being forced. Because again, if the person paying isn't going to get any benefit, and a lot of times they aren't, then they're paying for nothing. They're paying for the illusion of being better off.
I don't know if you've tried it before. I checked the stats.
Mm-hmm.
There is a direct correlation.
Mm-hmm.
And the issue is that it's a crabs in a barrel mindset.
Correlation in relation to what? The
you can
amount of plays?
say like you have 1 week, you have like 500 streams, right?
Mm-hmm.
The week after, you don't release anything, right? The week after you activate discovery mode, you're going to get to 1,000.
Okay,
you have 400 to 600 increase in streams, which is very normal because
but my question is, but are you making more money?
That's not the aim. The aim is to be more visible, to go on playlists so that people hear about you, so that you can convert in tickets. But the issue is that it's literally a gatekeeping move.
Yeah.
Right? Because that means that because you control the marketplace, you force people, you basically skim a bit more of the money. People before that didn't even make money on Spotify, and now you extract even more of it.
Yeah.
For me, it's like
it's holding you hostage in a way. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that that's the problem with any kind of medium. If you're doing television, there used to be a situation where you couldn't show any kind of interracial contact. And if you did, the local stations could just not show your show. They could just cut it off and put their own local programming in. That's what used to happen quite a bit. And so what happens is, this idea that you've got, gatekeepers and you've got people who control what is or isn't seen. That's very much real, but that's very much real across the board. We see it in news media. The news media decides, you've got editors and people in charge who decide. In fact, at radio, what's really wild is that the name of the person in that position is the programmer. So you've got a human, and their job, what are they programming? They say they're programming the list, but they're also programming people's listening habits. They're programming a population. So, if you're dealing with radio, going back to our earlier conversation about radio and payola and control, you've got programmers whose job it is to program people to be familiar with a particular song, to sing a certain song, to know certain things. And so this happens with all these things. It's it is what it is. It can
I think
be
there's a blueprint that is being laid out at the minute. So for example, the newsletter that we talked about before, the news broker, it's hosted on a publishing website called Substack.
Yeah.
And you have others like Ghost or Medium. And I think that for writers, that's really the concept of direct to consumer, D2C, right? And I think music should go more and more there, but not backwards,
Hmm.
not moonwalking it, right?
Hmm.
In the sense of let's try to sell CDs again, right? Or let's deny that streaming existed. Let's, if for me, what we should really thrive for is really apply as much as possible a direct to consumer model on top of streaming, in a
Okay.
nutshell.
Okay. No, like I said, it'd be interesting to see it. It'd be interesting to see it. I
You're
think,
gonna see it soon, in a
you
few
know,
months.
okay, well, hey, make sure to send me a link.
I will, but I guess like I'm conscious of time. By the way, I'm so sorry. I took a lot of your time. I talk too much. This is pretty easy to see. I have like a few like fire chat questions, right?
Hmm.
Um, in your years in the music business, right? What is the best trick that you've learned or that you've applied? Something that you didn't even expect, but that you learned empirically that you think would be a good tip or a good trick for people to know. One that you will be willing to share,
I
obviously.
mean, in relation to what? In relation.
Basically conducting your business. So now as a label owner, you just like you have someone to say, oh, my dream is to become a label owner in 5 years. It's like, what is the thing that you think that you really focus on? As an example, right? For me, since I started discovering the music industry, right, 2 years ago, I would say for me, the trick is social capital. That's why I'm trying to have all these conversations and to show what I'm building for real with my hands, right? To not just show PowerPoint slides, to say like social capital, because that's the thing that as a self-made person, that's what brought me where I am today, and I'm really, really happy. And I would like to continue this way. What would be yours?
I mean, the fundamental thing is finishing. You know, this is this whole business is notorious for thousands of ideas, thousands and thousands of ideas. People have some of the best, most fantastic ideas, and that's on the side of. And apologies, there's somebody outside playing music loudly, so you're probably hearing some of that.
No
But
worries.
uh, people have these great tracks, great music, and I'm like, this is fantastic, and they never finish it, and so it never comes out because they're forever working on it. Oh, just one more thing, just one more thing, just one more thing. Uh, that goes for sometimes promoters. Oh, I want to do this event. Oh, I'm going to do it next year. We're going to do this big event. Well, some stuff happened. We're going to do it next year, whatever.
Mm.
There's thousands of ideas. But my thing is that not to discourage people, but that doesn't mean anything. Everyone has them. The question is,
Deliver, do something.
yeah, so just get something done. And it can be something small. It doesn't have to be anything big, but to get in the habit of finishing things becomes really, really important. And if you can, and sometimes finishing something means saying, you know what, I'm not going to do this. Sometimes I look at the list of things I have to do, and I'm like, these things right here I've decided are just not that important, and I'm not going to do them. And they're complete. They're off my list of things to do. It's not.
You make me think. I saw there are two moments that popped up in my head when you're saying this. The first one is that I think I saw this video of a general, I think in the States, where he said like, make your bed,
Yeah.
start the day by completing one task, and then its compound effect.
Yeah.
And this, I really loved that video. I thought it was very inspirational
Yeah.
and odd, right? I would not have expected that. And the other one is actually from Spotify's CEO, right, Daniel Ek, that said that the concept of failing fast.
Yeah.
Failing is not an issue. The point is, if you can fail fast, you can iterate, and then
Yeah.
the compound effect, like anything else, is playing in your favor.
Oh, absolutely. That's a lot of people have said that, and I think that is important because every time you do something, if it doesn't work out, you usually learn something. And so as long as you're learning, you're becoming better for the next time. The and they also say, the only fight you lose is the one that you know don't go into. If you never try, then you're always going to lose.
Yeah,
If you try and it doesn't work, you haven't lost because you've learned something. So, that's the thing. As long as you're putting that effort into it, you're never going to lose. And it sounds arrogant, but it's true. And you can come out and say, yeah,
totally
I
agree.
I don't ever lose because I keep trying.
It's not arrogant. I think it's confident, which is different. I feel like
Yeah,
arrogant is you put yourself in front of other people, and it's like a competition, a challenge. Versus if you're confident, it's more you are your own enemy. It's like you looking in the mirror and to be like, I can do it today. A friend of mine is like, not trying has 100% failure
failure.
rate, right?
Yep,
It's just
exactly,
like,
exactly. But that even goes back to what I was saying earlier about not comparing yourself to other people. The one that
yeah,
you're competing against is yourself. You are trying to make sure that you're better every time. So, you know, there was a guy who I was concerned with at one point because he started a label. I had my own label. This is another different label. And this guy started a label and he had a whole lot of money. And so he could beat me financially, and I was very stressed about that at first. And then I realized, if the quality of artists I have is better, then I've actually got more value, regardless of how much money this person has. And so I went into it with that mentality where I was like, hey, you know what? The artists that I represent will beat any of your artists any day of the week.
hell yeah.
And so, I could, feel comfortable in that. There's another thing that I've heard once where it says never fight somebody on their terms. If you fight on
Yes,
somebody else's terms,
that's
you're
good.
always going to lose. You fight on your terms. So uh, there's a famous example where Underground Resistance had an issue with Sony Germany, and there were a lot of people who said, "Oh, you should sue them. You should sue them." Now we try to sue them. We spend all of our money going to court, and we lose. We lose because we lose all of our money taken into court. We might be right, but by the time that happens, there will be no label, no nothing. So we found other ways of dealing with it. Addressing it in public. When a magazine writes about it, BBC did an article about it.
Ooh,
You know, um, in the media now we're equal, and in fact we're more than equal. We actually have the edge because we're a small independent label, and you guys are a multi-million-dollar uh, international conglomerate, and you guys are attacking us. So it makes them, look,
nice.
we're so. The thing is, we were able to fight them in a way that was to our advantage, not to theirs. So that's the key. Is never fight somebody on their terms. That will
I
just
like it.
that's
That's really like you bring them to your turf. So like,
that's it.
I really like it. I think, yeah, this is, well, okay, we can talk further about this, but yeah, yeah, it's fascinating. As a My last question: what tool right now or service are you missing? If you have a magic wand right now, what is something that you would have, whether it's, to be honest, technology or someone, right? But a set of skills that right now would make your life easier and help you basically to help artists more efficiently.
Mm, that's a very good question, and I'll be honest and say right now I don't have the answer. I think, and part of the
I'm going to
reason.
say listen for you.
Well, that's all.
That's a
Okay,
shameless
okay,
plug.
okay,
I have
okay,
to listen. I'm a
okay,
monkey, right?
okay,
But
okay.
yeah.
No, 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 and it's
No, but right now,
and
for
it's
example, actually, it's an exercise. It's an exercise that I've been doing a lot when I was working, like also in finance and so on. It's like most of the time when people would not have that, I would say, what is the top three time consuming tasks that you're doing? And a lot of time you would have a lot of very smart engineers and actuaries and so on, and it would be like their brain power is there. That's how they put food on the table, right? So be like, no, I need to spend that time. But actually, when you start digging in, you just like, your brain power is, if you know how to do something technically yourself, being able to make yourself not expendable, right? But that you can delegate something
Absolutely.
enables you to start connecting dots, then you're actually more efficient.
Absolutely. And that, you know what, that would be it. I'm glad you said that.
Oh, great.
No, but that's it. In terms of, well, and again, we'll see, you asked about the artist and what would be the best thing I would say for my artist. And I would say for myself, it would be being able to delegate more. So,
Oh, that's a toughie.
that right there would be the thing, because, part of that is, you know, unfortunately, and I say it like this, but unfortunately, after you've been doing something for a long time, you have a depth of knowledge that others may not have. So when you delegate, it's not going to be done in the way that you would. That doesn't mean that it's going to be done badly. It just means that it's going to be different. And part of, I think, becoming more mature is accepting that and embracing that. Not just, hello.
Was it the battery?
Yep, it was the battery. No, but what I was saying is that I think that, again, part of being, more mature is understanding that, people aren't going to do it the way you do it, and that's okay. And in fact, a lot of times it can be better, because what happens is people bring their own skills and talent and qualities to something, and they're going to see things in a way that you didn't. And so, you can look at it from the side of, oh, they're not going to do it the way I would do it, and be upset about that. But the other way of looking at it is that, no, that's the whole point, is they're going to do it a little bit different. And this is the reason why they're valuable, because they're bringing a fresh perspective to something, and they're bringing qualities that you wouldn't, and there have been times when me doing something for a long time has been a problem, because I'm seeing it from one direction, and this other person who's coming in has the ability to see it in a completely different way, and I'm like, gosh, that's actually really good. And so I benefit from having somebody come in who doesn't have maybe the stereotypes or preconceived ideas that I have, because of my experience. So I think everyone benefits sometimes from having fresh ideas and fresh perspectives coming in and doing things. So I think that again, a lot of times people who do stuff, and especially with people who do stuff independently, I think there's a certain amount of fear of that. But I think it's an important thing to get beyond.
Words of wisdom to finish the episode. Perfect. Cornelius, thanks a lot for your time.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
And to the next chat.
Okay then. All right, you take care.